Happy to have you along, my fellow tech enthusiasts. Sam Bushman, Jay Harrison, keeping an eye on tech so you don't have to. This broadcast is brought to you by NetworkProvidersInc.com. Think strategic tech. Think help desk. Think a partner. Think endpoint security. Think education, training, and a partner when it comes to IT. That's NetworkProvidersInc.com. Our website, NPITechGuys.com. That's for the archive, video, and audio podcasts available at NPITechGuys.com. Hi, Jay. Spring is a springin', huh?
Greetings, Sam. It is. Spring is all about. We had a little cold front, but we're warming up again. It's going to be in the 80s in Florida. I love it. It's beach weather. In fact, I know some people that are at the beach right now, actually.
Oh, there you have it. That's good news. Some of these people, though, that work for Meta aren't having beach weather. They're having, what do they call that? Financial turmoil, Jay?
Yeah, that's not really great. So Meta actually just said that they are planning on eliminating about 20% of their jobs, and it's due to AI, but not necessarily in the thing that you think, like, oh, AI is replacing them. I mean, that maybe have something to do with it, but the company is aiming to offset the cost of their infrastructure for AI, which is incredibly big. They say that they've committed $600 billion to build data centers by 2028. In 2026, their expenditure is estimated to be as high as $135 billion, and last year they spent $72 billion on AI data centers. So with that, and they say they're going to lay off about 20% of their workforce. The workforce is currently at 79,000, so cuts are expected to be almost 16,000 jobs.
Ouch, that's a brutal number when you think about that, Jay. The numbers are just massive because remember, these are high-tech jobs too. And I'm
Right.
not downing anybody's jobs that aren't high-tech. I'm just saying these are well-paying jobs too. So,
Yeah.
when you do that, you really change the game. And it's not just Meta that's doing it. Other companies are doing the same thing. They're dumping all their money into AI. They're trimming their workforces. And what it really means is if you have a job, you're expected to do more with less. And if you don't have a job, you're going to go hunting one, right?
That's right. And you're going to have to use AI tools yourself to keep up with that pace where they're going to expect you to do the job of 2 or 3 people.
Does not sound fun at all. But again, Metaverse is experiencing so many different changes. I don't even know how to respond to it. Mark Zuckerberg thought this virtual reality thing was going to be a big old deal. And buddy, now that's having a bust, right?
Yeah, he doubled down on the metaverse. They shifted their whole focus to this metaverse, to Horizon Works. It was kind of their central strategy about 5 years ago when they announced their pivot toward that. In fact, they even renamed Facebook to Meta. Recently, the company's laid off 10% of their employees, and they've got, they're moving into VR capabilities. As of June 5th, users will no longer be able to access the immersive world through the virtual reality headsets, according to...
So it's kind of a bummer if you bought one of those headsets, huh, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, they still do a bunch of other stuff, and there's lots of games and other things for it. But, I mean, if you bought it specifically for that, then, yeah, you're going to be kind of out of luck.
Well, and even if you bought it with that being just one of the reasons, anytime you, again, shut things down or take away, it's less reason, for something. And so even if it's not a complete, nobody's using it now, the question is, will they retool? Will it be used? Will the next gen come and your equipment be deprecated?
Yeah.
It's hard to say, right?
Yeah, and they were hoping this would be like a breakout, like Roblox or Fortnite. They dropped $80 billion into this digital world thing and into the metaverse, and it's just not working out for them. So their focus is going to be turning toward artificial intelligence with significant investments planned, including at least $115 billion, primarily for AI, like we said, constructing massive data centers. Despite these challenges, Meta continues its VR pursuits with projects ongoing and future headset developments. The Horizon
And
World...
that's why I say if they're doing future headset developments and they shift to AI, how valuable will your headset be in the long term? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing not too valuable, right?
They say Horizon Worlds will remain available on mobile devices. They're still working on augmented reality. However, at a 2021 developer conference, Zuckerberg significantly reduced his use of the term metaverse, mentioning AI substantially more. So there you go.
I'd like to ask AI what they should call the metaverse.
I don't know. I always thought the metaverse was kind of lackluster
Weird
name.
term in the first place, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck does that mean? I don't like names that are so vague you don't really understand them, or they're hard to define. What is a metaverse? Well, it's this new world, Sam, where you live in this virtual reality, and you know, you can make friends and do things and buy things and sell things and play games and have fun, and it's like, okay, how much time can I spend in that virtual world? And AI kind of starts to blend the virtual world with the real world a lot more.
Yeah.
And so that's why I kind of say this virtual reality idea is going to kind of be left behind in this less submersive, but more immersive world, right?
Yeah, it was like a second take on the Second Life idea, where you had like this sim sort of VR that you would go into, and you could have meetings, and you could, you know, talk to people and get even, you know, apparently real world work done, you know, have the virtual meetings, but in an avatar kind of a state or whatever. I don't know that people are doing that so much. And I mean, I think it's kind of a cool idea, but they really doubled down on it. Plus, when you get the name metaverse, I mean, what do I think of when I hear that? I think of metadata. Metadata is data at the top of a web page that users aren't even meant to see. Like it's just program data or background information for servers.
Yeah,
and search
behind the
terms and stuff.
scenes information. Yeah.
Yeah, so metaverse, I don't know where they came from the term, or why he thought it was going to be very popular, but I don't think that popularity or that took off like they said, like Fortnite or Roblox. I mean,
Well, and so far though, Mark Zuckerberg has plenty of money to have try 2, try 3, try 4 before he's out of
oh yeah, I don't think he'll ever run
financial
out of money.
wherewithal there. So
He's not going to
there you
be.
kind of go for that. But I think that the problem with it was that they wanted everybody to kind of live in this world. They kind of thought, hey, Zoom and Microsoft meetings were going to go away, and you were going to end up in this kind of different world, and you were going to actually make that your real world work space, and this was going to blend, and you were going to have, you know, your whole world was going to be this online kind of persona, even in real life. It didn't turn out that way, right?
Yeah, it always seems to me kind of dystopian, like Ready Player One. You know, just that
Yes.
sort of. I've never bought into that very big.
Right. And most people don't, because it's not real to life, and people realize it's only this kind of virtual idea, and people thought it was cool and it was fun. The problem is it was overpromised as well, Jay.
It is
and they're
cool.
starting to do that with AI to a great degree too, where the promise sounds greater than the reality is when it really comes to fruition.
You know, and then when this first came out, I got a Quest, whatever the second version of their heads up display was, and we bought it and we checked this out. We got in there, so it's not like I'm speaking from never having tried it. I did try it out, and I went into some of their worlds and stuff, and I thought it was very cool. It is very neat, but I just don't know that people, you know, Apple is finding the same thing. They had a super expensive headset, and they're just not getting the traction that I think that they thought would happen.
Well, because how much of that time can you spend there when you got to make a living, when you got to go to school, when you got to live in the real life? You know, a lot of that kind of stuff, it kind of requires you to just become a gamer and just kind of lay around and game all day and hang out. And you know, most of us just aren't there from a day-to-day reality. Number one, I've got, you know, children to feed. I've got work that I have to do to make money. I can't just, you know, and so if I'm going to do that, I might as well just read a book. I mean, you know, in the olden days, they said, man, if you learn to read, you can go places by reading books and learn about cool things. And that's as virtual reality as it gets for me, Jay.
Yeah, it really does. And, you know, it's hard to think of everybody sitting in their cubicle or at their office with these headsets on and not interacting person to person. I mean, that's a lot of the benefit. A lot of why all this come back to the office kind of stuff is, hey, we need people interacting face to face. We need that synergy. We need that that growth that happens with people. Why bring everybody into the office if you're just going to put a headset on and sit in the corner?
Well, and this brings up this next topic of AI discussion, Jay. I know AI is here to stay because they're going to insist on it. They're spending so much money on it. They believe that's the future. Everybody's putting their eggs in that basket. But the reason that I bring this up is, you know, we've always been told whenever some new technology or new capability comes to the forefront, we're told we're going to have free time to do all these awesome things that we want to do. So, you know, you do your clothes laundry by hand, and it takes all day and sweat, hard labor to get your laundry done. And then the, you know, washing machine and the dryer come along, and boom, you can do your laundry in less than 2 hours, and you can pretty much kick back and watch TV while most of it happens, except for loading it and putting the soap in and, you know, transferring it to the dryer and folding the clothes. It's pretty easy. Same thing with cooking. You got a microwave and you got this and that. But all we've done whenever that happens is we've found other ways to take up our time. Okay? We don't get the free time that we want to do what we want. It's been turned into, well, now you got to have mom and dad both work to make a living because there's so many taxes and because you have to pay for all these extra things. You got to have a car. Well, you can't just have one car. You got to have multiple cars. You got to have a washing machine and a dryer. And now you're bored, so you got to watch TV while the laundry happens. And so you're now you got to have the internet because you can't have TV if you're a cord cutter without the internet. See, and you got to, and so then all these expenses, now you got to pay for those expenses. And so we've really traded our time for different pursuits, if you will, but we're starting to see the same thing happen with AI. Headline talks about a study conducted by, what do they call this thing? Productivity tracking. It's a productivity tracking firm. And it tracks, they call it Active Track. I guess that's the name of this firm. And it involves 443 million. I don't even know how to understand 443 million hours, but there you go. They tracked work activity, if you will, from 164,000 workers at, I guess, 111,000 employers or whatever. And it indicates that AI tools being used just actually turns out that you have a work increase load rather than a work decrease load.
That makes
perfect sense. Let me say that again. Let me put it in English. You start using AI and you think, hey man, AI is going to do things faster for me. Yes, it is. It's going to automate things for me. Yes, it is. It's going to be really awesome. Yes, it is. But it's not going to give you free time. In fact, all it's going to do is dump more of a load on you because they'll say, hey, we don't need 10 workers to do this. Now we need 4. Now these 4 workers, though, use AI and they're expected to have greater output, produce more. And this study tracks this. The study is discussed in a Wall Street Journal article, and it shows that after implementing AI, workers' time spent on messaging, email, chat, more than doubled, Jay. And their use of business software increased by 94%. I can't even understand these numbers. They're massive. Time allocated for, quote, uninterrupted work, or they call it deep uninterrupted work, decreased by 9%. Wow. That's for AI users. And you look at that and you go, whoa, wait a minute. My productive deep work decreased by 9%. My email and message, all that doubled. My increase of business software increased 94%. Active Track, I guess is this thing's, noted that AI does foster efficiency, but at the same time is quickly misdirected to other tasks. Concurrently, a separate study, it was at a 200-person tech firm, revealed similar trends. You have to take on more responsibility. You're expected to speed up your output. You got to work longer hours, according to a Harvard Business Review article. This research emphasizes that increased productivity from AI, well, it wasn't even mandated by the companies. It was by workers' initiative and choosing to do this themselves. We'll talk about it more. You're watching and listening to Tech Watch. Back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman, Jay Harrison. We keep an eye on tech so you don't have to. So we're talking about this interesting AI study. And man, it's a massive study. 64,000 employees in one case, a couple hundred in another case. Harvard Review, tech journals on this stuff. I mean, it's massive, right? And
it's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, when you implement AI, all it does is really double your workload or more.
And
okay, we think that it's going to save time. And I bring this up in this comparison, Jay, about, say, washing machines or the convection oven or microwaves or having cars or whatever. All it means is, yeah, you free up time, but it's just going to be taken by something else. It's not going to be necessarily more joy time or whatever else. It just makes the workers 10 times more under pressure, Jay.
That's exactly right. And it's amazing that, as they even pointed out, this is initiated by workers. So you have let's say you have 10 employees in an office and they're all doing whatever, marketing or something like that. And two or three of them decide, hey, we have seen and we've heard about this AI and we're going to start utilizing it. And now they become super productive. You know what's going to happen? Well, the other 7 guys are going to get laid off. These 10 guys now are doing more work than or these 3 guys are doing more work than the 10 team was doing before. And then they're just going to be expected to keep up with that. I mean, there will be a small lag of time where it's just like, man, you're doing great. And you might even get a little raise or something. And they'll just think, man, this is saving me so much time. But pretty soon, that's going to be an expectation, and then all your other team's going to be cut or whatever, and now you and a couple of people are doing the job of 10 people, and life moves on, and now you've got all that, and things will just get piled on, and then everything else that those people were doing, whatever it was, cleaning the floor or taking out the trash, or you got to do it all now between the 3 of you. So that's what happens, and that's life.
And they make it sound like this is all employee driven, and I don't believe that, and let me explain why. Yes, the employees might have embraced it, and the company didn't mandate it. That's a fact, probably, in these studies, Jay.
Right.
But what they're overlooking is that everybody at least in the United States corporate ladder, or whatever you want to call it, has been taught, and this is more true even in Japan than in the United States, but you've got to be the rock star. If you want to do well in your career, buddy, you've got to outdo everybody else. You've got to work harder. You got to be the first one to show up, buddy. You got to be the last one to leave. You've got to have factor presentations. Yes, but I don't think it's true in reality. I think we deceive ourselves into believing this. And so as a result, the company didn't force AI, but if I can find a tool that gives me the advantage, then I'm going to use that tool and take that advantage, even though it might have later repercussions. It reminds me of and I'm guilty of this too, but the guys that, hey, I'm going to use caffeine, or somebody else. And I don't know if you've seen this over the last many years, but some of these top executives, they're like, hey, we can take this medication or this pill, and it will help us be the brightest, fastest thinking guys in the room. And we can, again, everybody just tries to get ahead like that. And I think that's what drives this mentality.
100%.
And I used to believe in it. When I started out my career, I used to believe in it. Now I don't believe in it, Jay.
I think you can't get around it.
Slow down.
I don't think you can get around it. There may be other countries, or maybe in a socialist country or something, where it's like, hey, I'm just putting in my hours. I guess if you work for the DMV or something, it's like that. But I don't know. But in real world,
there's a middle ground, though. There's a middle ground where you say
you got to be the best.
All those fake ideas that you've got to be the best, and you've got to, be the fastest and the smartest and the this and the that. I think there's a middle ground where you can't just put in your hours and just be lazy. But being the best sometimes means I realize my limitations. Even in the Bible, for example, it talks about you can't run faster than you have strength. You got to walk before you run. There's all kinds of slogans that illustrate what I'm getting at. It's important to do your very best and to, have great output. But the 4-hour work week highlights this very well. And I'm not saying everybody can work 4 hours, but I am saying oftentimes you find I can probably get more done in 4 hours of concentrated, focused work than I can in 8 hours of just being on the job, if I use my time wisely and if I find out when my most productive periods are, and and so sometimes less is more, Jay.
I think that's what people thought. They were going to have the Tim Ferriss lifestyle when AI came out, and especially if you're the 1, 2, or 3 people in that team that are embracing it, using it. Everybody else is like, I don't know, or I'm scared of that, or I think that's worthless, and they don't even try it, and you have that advantage. You get that advantage for the short time, like say, when it's coming out in 2000. End of 2023, and you're using AI and you're just turning out some awesome stuff, and people are like, whoa. The people love that. I mean, they want that kind of lifestyle. They want the 4-hour work week, but it turns into back to the 10-hour work week pretty soon.
Well, you're right about that, and that's why I think people need to learn, and this is why we're spending time on this. People need to learn AI has its advantages, but you need to use AI like any other tool. You can pick up your phone and doom scroll on your phone and waste a ton of time. Or you can say to yourself, I'm going to use my phone. It has real valuable use, but I'm going to pick up my phone with a specific task. I'm going to do that task, and I'm going to put my phone down. And you can do the same thing with AI. And you can say, I'm going to use it for certain things, but I'm not going to let AI I'm not going to let that prompt be my day. I'm not going to let email rule my day. I'm not going to let, and so it takes discipline, but I'm convinced there's a sweet spot. And I'm convinced if we ignore that sweet spot for too long, what you do is you burn out your adrenaline. You burn out your ability to concentrate. You burn out your ability. The next story we have kind of highlights the point that I'm making very well. What 6,000 brain scans reveal about gamers.
And Zach has this video ready for us.
All right, this is scary. Watch the first part of this. We're going to play part of this and then pause and talk about it, and then we'll play more.
On February 1st, 2012, a 23-year-old guy named Chen Rongyu walked into an internet cafe in Taiwan. This wasn't unusual. Chen was actually a regular. The staff knew him. He would come in, find a computer, and start playing, sometimes playing through the night. So this time around, he sits down and starts playing League of Legends. 1 hour goes by, then 2, then 5 hours. Match after match, he keeps playing. Internet cafe is full of other gamers tapping on their keyboards. Chen too is completely locked in. He's not thinking about time. Around hour 10, he gets a little tired, so he does what he always does. He lays his head on the table in front of the monitor, takes a little nap, then wakes up to pick up the game right where he left off. But then it's hour 15, then hour 20. He's been playing for nearly a full day now. And at some point, around hour 22, maybe hour 23, he puts his head down on the table again. The cafe stays open, people keep playing, and staff walk past him. And for 9 hours, Chen sits there, slumped over his keyboard. And nobody realizes he's dead. It's only after 9 hours that an employee finally tries to wake him up. So she tries shaking him, but nothing happens. Then shakes again. And eventually, his body swings back, and it's only then that she discovers the tragedy. The crazy thing is that when they find him, and this is a real photo of the scene, his arms are stretched out in front of him, still reaching for the keyboard. His story is case number 10. He was found dead from cardiac arrest at just 23 years old. And unfortunately, he's not the only one. This was a systematic review of deaths linked to playing video games. And the pattern is almost always the same. It's young men playing competitive games, and often for long sessions. Now, the thing that interests me the most is that most of them weren't planning to play that long. They just didn't or couldn't stop. Now, I'm not here to tell you that
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just telling you, this gaming stuff is crazy, and you can say, well, I'm not that kind of an extreme gamer. I understand, but the same thing's true with TikTok. The younger generation cannot put it down even though they want to. How is AI going to affect our lives when you live by the prompt? Because that's where you get your money and that's where your success is. We'll talk about it more in seconds. You're watching Tech Watch. We keep an eye on tech so you don't have to. The younger generation cannot put it down even though they want to. How is AI going to affect our lives when you live by the prompt? Because that's where you get your money and that's where your success is. We'll talk about it more in seconds. You're watching Tech Watch. We keep an eye on tech so you don't have to. All right, back with you live, Sam and Jay, talking about what happens to your brain when you're a gamer. And the addictive quality of some of this technology is really problematic. Gaming right now is at the forefront of the extreme, where people are literally dying because they game themselves to death. And we're watching this video where that's happening, but then it goes and explains about the dopamine in your brain and some details. Let's watch a little more of this video, then we'll talk about it.
Things are going to kill you. Chen's case is extreme, but I do keep coming back to that image. His arms were still reaching for the keyboard. Even in death, the desire or addiction to the game was still there. And that makes me wonder about the rest of us. We might not be dying, but what are we sacrificing every time we play video games? It turns out the cost is astronomical. Let me give you some numbers because the scale of gaming is really easy to underestimate. There are now 3.3 billion gamers on the planet. That's nearly half of all humans alive. In the US alone, 70% of consumers identify as gamers, and they're averaging between 8 and 15 hours a week, depending on how you measure it. Teenagers, no surprise, are clocking even more. Research from 2025 shows that 13 to 17-year-olds average over 15 hours of gaming per week. And weekend sessions stretch out past 3 hours at a time. Then there's kids on platforms like Roblox. They're spending 2.5 hours a day, every day, inside these virtual worlds. And here's the thing, the gaming industry knows exactly what it's doing. This is a $522 billion industry. That's bigger than movies and music combined. These aren't developers just making games for fun. These are sophisticated operations with teams of behavioral psychologists, neuroscientists, and data analysts whose entire job is to figure out how to keep you playing longer, clicking more, and coming back tomorrow. So these modern games, it's hard to call them just entertainment anymore. They're engineered experiences designed to hijack your brain.
So these experiences
That's
are
incredible.
designed to hijack your brain. And the problem is you can say, well, that's just gaming. That's whacked out. I'm not into that. I'm not, whatever. How many people are involved is one thing. But here's the next question for you, Jay. If this isn't just people creating games for fun, this is an engineered experience intentionally designed to add dopamine to your brain. The video goes on and talks about how the dopamine in your brain, what happens, and it creates this sustained dopamine, and people got to have it. And and it changes your whole physiological structure. And so the question becomes, if the gaming folks are doing that, do you think the AI folks are doing that, Jay?
Well, I think AI knows about it, and it knows how to keep you like that. So it can certainly assist in developing those games and developing strategies that adhere to that sort of a plan and idea. Yeah, I think it definitely knows about it, and it definitely can help
And if
you.
employers want to get more out of a workforce with less, in other words, have less employees and get more out of it, do you think they're going to be building software in the business world that has this same mentality? And if you're using
already see it.
chat bots and you're using, so all I'm telling you is
With
the
the
whole
term
technological world has changed now, forcing you to become like this. Unless you do what I'm saying and intentionally back away and slow down, you will be drug along in this dragnet. You may not be as bad as the guy that reaches out for the keyboard and you're going to die, but it is going to control your life.
Yeah, it's in the industry, in the business industry, it's called gamifying something. So it doesn't matter whether it's your loyalty card or your your business, how many sales you're making. They gamify it and they add points and scores and power ups and things to make it more like a game and to make it more addictive, to make it more competitive, so that they can get bigger output.
And that's a sad tale to tell, because at some point you force people to run faster than they have strength. And believe it or not, Gen Z is catching on to a lot of this, Jay. This is kind of part of the good news to this thing. Gen Z are the folks born between 1997 and 2004, they say. Or I'm sorry, in 2012. 1997 to 2012. And they're now reducing their engagement on social media, they say, according to a Harris poll that was conducted. And they're concerned about they don't have trust. The survey reveals that 34% of Gen Z participants rarely interact on social media now. They're just getting sick of it. They're saying we don't want active participation. We're just going to observe. Or some of them are saying, I'm going to turn it off altogether. This trend is highest among Gen Z compared to other generations. They're starting to realize 31% of Gen Z users scroll mindlessly out of habit rather than desire. Wow. 29% say they feel better when I don't use it. Others feel guilty for spending so much time online. A significant 39% notice an increase in what they call low quality AI generated content. So they're already
We've all seen
burning out
that.
on it and getting sick of it. Yeah. Over half, 52%, are wanting to reduce their social media. They want to exercise more. They want more interactions. They want to engage in hobbies and all these kind of things that can improve their lives. Negative feelings towards the platform are increasing, but you want to know what the exception to it is?
What is that?
TikTok.
Well, I was about to say TikTok is, I think, leading this cause, because people are getting so used to. It's not like Facebook and MySpace and things where it was meant to be interactive, and you had to heart things and comment on stuff, and that's the social part of social media. When people are now more, I think, especially the younger generation, going toward this plan, this idea like TikTok, where you're just a passive observer. You scroll whatever you don't like, it scrolls automatically. If you do nothing, you literally just set it up and just passively consume this content. And then it's dividing people in general into a large group of just observers and a small group of creators. And people are getting used to. I saw a teacher talking one time about one of the problems that they have in school with kids is they don't interact. They have that YouTube face on them, and you give them an assignment, you tell them what to do, and they're just like, they don't interact. They don't take any initiative, no critical thinking.
TV started all this, Jay, because at TV, you're just kind of a passive observer. You just watch it kind of go by, and that's where the sitcoms where everybody laughs and goes, and they have all the laughter, canned laughter and stuff like that in there and stuff like that. And, but millennials and Gen Z are starting to get a handle on this a little bit, and they're starting to embrace traditional hobbies like knitting, gardening, arts and crafts, usually associated with an older generation. There's a shift away from constant screen use towards engaging hands-on activity that improve mental and physical health, they say. There's a historical references from July 25, 1935, shows women gardening. And now people are starting to take on those different hobbies, going, I need to get outside, I need to exercise, I need interaction with humans. I need to get involved in pottery, origami, blacksmithing, all this kind of stuff, because studies suggest that activities involving hand use can enhance your longevity and can prevent certain diseases even. Anyway, this is a big, big thing going on, Jay. I believe that there's pushback, but not near enough.
I was about to say.
The reason we spend time on this because we believe it's important to realize, folks, we are getting gamified in every aspect of our lives. And if we're not careful and if we don't push back, I'm fearful of what the next generation is going to look like. That from a high-tech guy, it's a shout-out warning to everyone, Jay.
It is. And I think there is pushback on it. You see groups that are like, we're going to go outside, we're going to garden more, we're going to do more family stuff. You see the whole trad wife kind of thing going on, traditional wives that are cooking and baking bread from. But I think that's a big minority. That's not the majority. The majority are the people that are just sitting there scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is that they're consuming. I see that small minority, and I think it's great, and I think it's cool that they encourage it and they do those things. But I don't think it's near the slice of pie that people think it is.
Well, you're right, and so it reminds me of this movie, one of my favorite movies, where these guys they're going up to cut Christmas trees with chainsaws, and there's three of them that go up. And one guy is like this super guy that spends all his time on the phone. The other guys are pretty outdoorsy guys. And so they get up there, and the one guy, right when they're about to start, gets the phone call, and he goes, hold on, I got to take this real quick. And so he takes the phone call, and like 3 hours later, he gets off the phone, and he goes, hey, you guys need some help? And they're like, nope, we're done. Jump in. and this guy missed the whole thing, right?
You got to wonder if he did that on purpose or not, right?
Well, exactly. But the point remains the same, that, folks, we've got to be really careful. I get that computers and technology have a place in our lives. But when do we go from, I want to have the washing machine and the dryer do the laundry so it's easier, to I've now used my time to spend on TV or video games or even work where they demand more with less all the time? When does technology not serve you? It owns you. That's the question we want you to think about. Technology is wonderful, ladies and gentlemen, when it's used properly. But if you're not careful, instead of tech serving you, tech begins to own you. And this gamify idea, this idea that everything is becoming addictive and, creating a surge of dopamine in your life is a very problematic situation. Companies, unscrupulous groups will do this to exploit we the people, and at some point are going to be just slaves to the technology. The technology can empower us to where everybody's super smart, super fast, super capable, but yet you're running. At some point you become a hamster on a wheel, and tech becomes the owner and you become the servant. We want tech to serve you, not own you, is the point. And so this next AI story from Carnegie Mellon University kind of highlights what we're talking about here. If we're not careful, we're going to pretend we're getting more, and we're going to end up with less, Jay.
Yeah, researchers recently, this was in January, at Carnegie Mellon University, published findings on AI systems that generate computer code. They indicated these technologies could speed up development, but also may degrade code quality. This was a group of Silicon Valley startups, Palo Alto, Axiom Math and Harmonic, as well as San Francisco's Logical Intelligence, are developing AI systems aimed at automatically verifying computer code. Recently, they raised $200 million in funding from venture capital firms. They're headquartered in Palo Alto. They're about a year old. They employ 20 people. They're valued at $1.6 billion for a company with 20 people. That's pretty impressive. They are using computer programming language called Lean to prove math problems and aims to apply this technique to verifying computer code quality. The company has also performed well on benchmark tests for code verification, while Axiom Prover has been effective at mathematics. Applying these methods to programming presents challenges as to the correct application of computer code and can be complex and context dependent. It's also very opinionated when it comes to computer code, like what's the best way to get things done. Sometimes there can be differences on that and different ways to accomplish the same answer or get to the same problem. And most of the time I would say it's very clear which one's more efficient, but just look at the sorting algorithms and how many are out there, from bubble sort to everything else. And sometimes one is better for one application and another is better for something else, but it is pretty interesting.
Well, and it's also interesting to say that, if you're not very careful, you're going to get a ton of code that nobody really understands except for the bots. You might be able to implement it if you take this code block and pop it in and you can get it to work and whatever. But if you're not very careful, it's kind of like the last mile of an internet cable. The last mile matters the most almost, or it could be the biggest bottleneck kind of thing. And if you're not very careful, you're going to get code that very few people even understand. And eventually the machines are going to know more about it than you. And all you're going to be able to do is say, hey, can you help me figure this out? This thing's stuck. And if the machine can't do it, you're going to be in trouble. And this is where tech starts to own you, not serve you. We need to be very careful about this. It also is very concerning that the bots might write in back doors that people don't discover.
That's
they
true.
might write in all kinds of other conflicting code to where, hey, it works great, but when this switch is tripped or when this event happens, then it does something totally different. And if you don't know the code well enough, you can't even spot those things anymore, Jay.
There's a lot of people now that are just writing, I say writing code in quotation marks, because they're just talking to an AI. They're not writing any of the code. The term, I think, is vibe coding that they're dropping out there now.
That's right.
Everybody's just going to talk to an AI and build all this code. And there are some instances, a lot of instances, where it can do it pretty efficiently, and it's getting better and better every day. But even still, I think one of the best approaches, and this is what I've done before in writing, I don't write a lot of code, but I write batch files and all kinds of stuff, programming, automation, and things. And I will write the code myself because that's how you understand it. But I will ask the GPT and other engines, hey, how can you optimize this? And oftentimes it comes up with some really cool things. I mean, I've seen it take 40 lines of code and turn it into like 4, and I'm pretty impressed with that.
Yeah, and that's fine because you see how it's done and you understand it and you follow it but we're getting to a point where people are starting to not do that, and eventually we're going to have trouble if we're not very careful. And so the reason we bring all these things up, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to the show and you have your own business, apply these things to your business, to your life, to your personal situation. When is it really helping you, get ahead and making things smarter and better and easier versus when is it really setting you back? And if you don't know a lot of what's going on, but you're depending on AI to know those things for you, you can bet that it's a problem. And if we depend on these things too much, at some point we get in over our heads, and pretty soon we start to kind of dumb down the population. They're smarter if they can get to their AI prompt. But what if you can't get to that prompt at some point? Will you know how to do anything? Will you know how to? And that's a very big concern. PC World is reporting a serious concern, Jay.
They are. There's a concern in the new Windows Notepad linked to their Markdown support feature. Why Notepad is supporting Markdown? I'll address that in a minute. But It's got a CVSS score of 8.8. This vulnerability allows remote code execution by opening malicious Markdown files. Users requiring user interaction and social engineering tactics to be effective. So at least that's good. I mean, maybe it would just an auto run. But Microsoft has advised users to avoid downloading files from untrustworthy sources, as if anybody would do that on their own anyway, if they knew better. as is currently.
People do it all the time, Jay, and we're here to tell them to stop.
I know, but I mean, how do you know? I mean, I don't even know sometimes if something is trustworthy or not. I'm running it through VirusTotal, and I'm taking my best guess. It's like, and you see these injections into Notepad. I think Plus had it a while back, where somebody got a hold of their website and they injected code into their base that auto updated, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what a mess. But
yes,
the watermarking options, however, are not customized. I'm sorry, I missed the line there. So this issue is reported directly by Microsoft in the security bulletin. Marks a significant increase in risk in Notepad, which previously didn't support these functionalities. That's my
why
point.
Are they
actually
doing this in a notepad and a text editor kind of an idea in the first place? It's insane. They already have Word that's so bloated people don't want to use the ocean liner. They want a speedboat, and now they're ruining the speedboat, Jay.
I think that they need to rename whatever they have now that's Notepad to something else, and they need to bring back a simple text editor into their operating system.
Well, there's no reason. It's called WordPad, Jay, and they dumped it.
No, WordPad was a rich text editor. I actually still use WordPad. I've moved it over from Windows 3.1, believe it or not, and you can still use WordPad and run it on a modern system. But no, I mean a simple text editor.
I know, and they should have left Notepad to be that simple text editor like it was intended.
No, they added
they should
tabs.
have taken WordPad. I know, but they shouldn't. They should leave it, and they should do WordPad and do all those things. But they got rid of WordPad.
I agree, 100%. And they've ruined Notepad, a simple text editor, by adding too many features to it. And now you got vulnerabilities. You open the wrong code in there, and it will just execute malicious code that you're not even intending for it to do. And
they're also adding AI to it as well. And if you can't trust the AI, then it can inject things whether you're ready or not.
And that used to be on Windows the main way. If you had a weird file, an XML, a PDF, anything, you could always rename it to a text file, open it in Notepad, and kind of skim around and see what's in there and see what's going on if it was legible. And you'd feel like, oh, this is safe. This is just some info file or some registry, whatever. You can see what's going on. Now you just cannot trust that. And I think there's a market right now for somebody, and I don't mean Notepad++, because they're doing the same thing. They're doing all the tabs, they're doing all the markup, and they're very cool for what they do. I'd use Notepad++ too. But for somebody to just create a super simple like calculator text editor, I think there's a market for that now in Windows.
There is, and they exist, but they're dumbed down enough to where that's kind of a difficulty and stuff too. It's hard to, anyway, we go on and on, but now Microsoft 365 has introduced watermarking for AI-generated content, Jay.
Yeah, with policies initially acceptable to audio and expanding to video in March 2026. This feature is going to enable organizations to identify AI-created content through visible watermarks or metadata where it won't be visible, revealing the AI model of creation and details. Activation of this feature is not automatic, requires manual enablement by administrators. The watermarking options, however, are not customizable and consist of predetermined text and placement. Separate policies exist for AI-generated images, but that's because people are, concerned about this. Yeah.
Well, if people didn't abuse it, this wouldn't be happening, and the problem is that people need to get a handle on it, and this is one way they're doing it. The problem is you get either abuse or lockdown too hard. Neither are a great plan, Jay.
Well, I'll tell you this also, is that labels are coming out now on stuff like Proudly Human or AI Free. They're popping up on books, films, websites, and at least 8 organizations right now are racing to create a universal certification for products that are made without AI-generated stuff. Sort of like the fair trade label, that says that your workers were paid fairly and labor conditions were ethical.
The problem is the labels, just like food labels, whether something's organic or not at all, depends on your definitions, Jay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But people are trying to get out this AI free or Proudly Human kind of label. We're going to start seeing that on products, on books and things, because like if you look at Amazon store, it's getting inundated with books that are just people are throwing together with AI and putting them up to sell. And it's really diluting the good works and the good things that are out there with this slop coming out.
And the real balance is, when does AI actually help in very productive ways, and the humans admit to it, but really the ingenuity, the concepts, the knowledge, the value, is really human, but yet AI just assisted in the process. That's fine. When do you cross that line? And that's where people are trying to find the sweet balance as of now.
That's right. And
there's an interesting phone called Nano Pro, Jay, that I want to get to before the end of the hour here. Okay. Nano Pro, it's a credit card size phone. It's an Android smartphone. They say it costs $100, down from $200. It's kind of on a sale. This small device supports essential functionalities such as WhatsApp, Google Maps, YouTube, Instagram, and Gmail. And it has expandable storage, Bluetooth, all kinds of stuff. The sale is available through Stack Social. I won't go into that, etc. My point is people are starting to want, I don't know what you want to say, 80% of the capabilities for 10% of the money. And Android's starting to deliver on it. And I think over time it's going to change the game. iPhones are going to be forced to come to the table. People just can't spend $2,000 on a phone, Jay.
No, but they're going to do it when this September we're expected to see the iPhone Fold that'll fold out into like a small tablet. But people are going to say that's going to be, traditionally the expensive the baseline expensive phone for iPhone was $1,500. This is going to be expected to be $2,000, maybe $3,000 if you topped it all out with options. But I think people want a smaller phone like this, like the Nano phone. I think that the Apple Watch and these other devices like that, once they have their own cellular, we're supposed to kind of compete with that. And I know people use them like if they're going to go out on a run or a jog or something, they'll say, hey, I'll just take my watch with me and I can answer calls that way. But you got to have a way to be a little more immersive. One guy just did that on a ship. One guy just did that on a ship and exposed the whole location of the ship's mission in the war and stuff. Don't do that in the military.
With his exercise thing. He didn't mean to, but it got put on the internet, and now they know the location of the ship. It's disaster. You got to be careful, folks, to make sure tech serves you, does not own you, and that's why we keep an eye on tech so you don't have to. Tech Watch is brought to you by NetworkProvidersInc.com. For Sam and Jay, make it a great tech day. Hey, thanks.